Hey guys, it's Miss Passahow. So obviously, things are online this week, and so I'm going to record two short-ish lectures for you guys on our subjects this week. And we do have PowerPoints to go with them, of course. Um, it wouldn't be a class with Miss Passahow if we didn't have PowerPoints. So if you could open up the annotated bibliography PowerPoint, that's the one that we're going to do in this lecture here. So, click please, thank you. So what is an annotated bibliography? A bibliography is a list of sources, books, journals, websites, periodicals, what have you, things that you have found and accumulated for your research topic. In APA style, they're called references. In MLA, which is what we're using, it's a works cited. And it usually just includes the bibliographic information, author, title, publisher, etc. And we'll go over that information more in depth in the second lecture. So an annotation here is a little bit different than what we've been doing for the articles that you've been going over. So what I'm looking for an annotation here is a summary or evaluation, or a summary and evaluation rather. Therefore, an annotated bibliography includes the bibliographic information alongside a summary and evaluation of each of the sources. So on the next slide, we have the short and sweet version, the basic breakdown of what I am looking for your annotated bibliographies. It should be related to your research paper subject. You can do something different if you really want to, but I highly recommend you use this as a chance to begin your research for your research paper and really start thinking about what you're going to be doing for that. It should be in alphabetical order, just like your works cited. The reference information should be in MLA format, like you would have it on your works cited page. I am asking you to find 3 to 5 sources. So one must be a peer-reviewed article, and we'll go over in class a little bit about what that means and where to find them. And optional but encouraged is to find a book on the subject, either through the library or finding an ebook online. Because of the way the library is working right now, it's a little more difficult to just go in and grab a book. So that's why I'm making that part optional, but I do encourage you to use our library system still. And then the other sources are up to you. Each source should have an annotation that goes with it, and that annotation should be about 150 to 200 words. It should summarize, assess, and reflect, which I'll go over in a moment. And it should let us know what the source is about. Why is it useful? Why is it not useful to you? And I say that because if you're finding sources that are kind of close to your subject but not quite, or the title was promising but the information wasn't what you wanted, you can still include those in your annotated bibliography. It's still active research that you've done. So why or why not was it useful for your paper? and how do you plan on using it? Next slide. So how do we write one? Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I'm still recording. So how do we write one? We need to summarize, assess, and reflect. So the summary is pretty straightforward. What are the main arguments? What is the main point of this book or article or whatever research piece you found? What topics are covered? Basically, if someone asked you to describe the source, what would you say about it? Then we have an assessment or an evaluation of the source. So, is it useful? How useful is it compared to other sources? Would you use it more or less than other sources that you found? Is the information reliable? Is the author credible? Is this source biased or objective? What is the main goal of this source? So this is basically just breaking down the usability of the resource. And then lastly, I'd like you to reflect on your resources and sorry, I've lost all of my words for a second. To look at how it fits into your research. So, was this source helpful to you? How does it help shape your argument? How do you think you can use this source in your research paper? Has it changed the way you think about your topic? So I'm looking for more than I'm going to use this source to back up my argument. I'm looking for a little more detail than that. I always love to go back to global warming as a subject. I'm going to use this resource to show how climate change is shrinking the habitats of polar bears. That's something more specific than just I'm going to use it in my research paper. So, last slide. Some tips and tricks for your research as you get going on that. I would suggest you start broad and then narrow it down. So start with global climate change as a whole subject and then narrow it down to polar bear habitat. Use multiple keywords in multiple combinations. So for instance, if global warming polar bears is not getting you anything, you could try climate change polar bears, or you could flip it around and say polar bears climate change. And this will get you different results each time until you hit on something that you really want to use. I highly recommend using more than one database to do your research. Google Scholar is a really good one that we'll go over in class on how to use that. The TWU library database is fantastic. If you're hitting dead ends, try researching around your subject. So what I mean by that is to, if you're doing your narrow search, maybe go broad again. Or research something that is close to your subject but not quite your subject. So if you're trying to look at how climate change is affecting polar bear habitats, maybe look at how climate change is affecting the ice caps melting. That can give you some information that's close to your subject. Or go broad again and get some general information about the history of the ice caps melting or about global climate change. As always, if you have any questions, you can ask me, and I highly recommend that you go in and ask our librarians any questions that you might have there. So that is my mini lecture on annotated bibliographies, and up next we're going to talk about MLA citation and some stuff there. So I will see you in the second lecture.